My name is Amy, and today we'll be exploring community psychology and looking at an opportunity of how a community psychologist could address domestic violence and pets. So, community psychology, what is it and who are they? Community psychologists are a recognised specialty within the APS. However, to date, there are only 95 psychologists recognised as members of the Community Psychology College. It is a relatively new specialisation which does account for those numbers. But what makes a community psychologist? Well, investigation and research are key components of practice. They inform about the issues faced in a community, but they also highlight and identify how to garner community action that will lead to enduring change. These components can be seen across research and through the scientist practitioner model. However, community psychology is unique as it places the psychologist as an agent of change, transforming research and planning into direct intervention. In essence, there's a transference between the academic and the therapeutic. Therapy is still a valued aspect of community psychology. However, there is a key focus on empowerment. Empowerment of the individual, of their strengths and their skills, and also empowerment of the community. There is also an exploration of the meta-impact of therapeutic services and program implementation. Enduring success is seen when the community is empowered to be active and responsible in the change process, and this change process is to endure and last. So we're discussing community. There are often a few community groups that come to mind. We think of organisations, of professional bodies of workers, of age groups, of cultural groups. A community psychologist is looking at the context of the individual and how this context of the individual and the groups that they belong to can inform the process of change and support requirements. It's not a process that can be based on past theory. The approach needs to continuously evolve as the requirements of the community evolve, because we are not static and nor are our communities. We are constantly changing. Community psychologists utilise assessment, analysis and problem solving to develop capacity building programs for the targeted groups. So we have those basic groups we think of, but there are also challenges specific within these groups. So we can have homelessness within a local community, addiction amongst young people, and also domestic violence. Domestic violence, or DV as it can be commonly known, refers to the perpetration of abuse against a past or present intimate partner or family member. DV is a prominent issue nationwide that it can affect persons regardless of demographics. However, police reports indicate that women are more likely than men to be a victim of DV. Physical harm is unfortunately a reality commonly associated with DV, not always, but commonly. And in Australia, 58% of homicides nationally are related to domestic violence, and of these victims, 75% are women. Annually, 20,000 women in the United States have no choice but to leave their home as a result of domestic violence. Many of these women have no option but to go to a refuge. And this can be due to the social isolation and financial restrictions arising from other forms of abuse. In Australia, emergency accommodation is noted as one of the most funded areas, but also one of the most required in relation to domestic violence. A common characteristic of perpetrator behaviour is breaking, damaging prized personal items, or threatening to harm, threatening to cause distress or pain to other family members, including children and pets. So let's imagine that you've got some support and there is 15 minutes tomorrow where you can leave your home. You have a safe window. And you've got to look around and grab the things that you want to take with you, knowing that they may never be returned, they may be broken, they may be destroyed, or they may be harmed. What would you take? Thinking about this question, I thought, well, I'd grab the photo album, some treasured childhood memories, some birthday cards from loved ones that are no longer with me, some family items. But the most important thing, and the thing that holds my heart the most, is my beautiful pet Moo, my cat. But unlike the other items, she can't be put in a box or a bag until we have a new home together. She requires a carrier, she requires food, a tray, litter, space to exercise. And if there has been harm towards a pet, medical care, veterinary care, which can be incredibly costly. It's a big issue when we start looking at taking a pet from one home to a refuge. So when we look at pets and domestic violence, it is a complex issue. I'm not alone in viewing my pet as a family member. The value and love for pets is often utilised to coerce victims of DV into illegal or unwanted activities, or to stay in the unsafe environment for a longer time for fear of harm to the pet and wanting to protect and ensure their well-being. Ascione et al. 2007 explored the link between harm to animals and domestic violence within a women's shelter. Results indicated that the psychological distress experienced by survivors who had witnessed harm to their pets was significantly high. Further, many women reported staying in the environment to protect their animals. Of those residing in the refuge, ongoing anxiety and psychological distress were highly recorded. And 52.4% of women had no choice but to leave their pet with the perpetrator. These statistics reflect stories being told by Australians, with many programs aiming to provide support and refuge for not only people but their pets. However, at this time, programs are reliant on charity funding, on government programs, and on the availability of resources. Safe Steps is a key stakeholder in supporting survivors of domestic and family violence in Victoria. Safe Steps currently has a Pets in Crisis program, which utilises charities and animal welfare societies when there's no available accommodation for survivors and their pets. These programs are admirable and inherently needed. However, they're relatively unknown to the wider community, and they do not address prevention, treatment, and the ongoing agents of change required. So what could community psychology offer and bring to this issue? At this time, there's little research on this specific domain in Australia, let alone on breaking it down to the micro level and looking at the specific communities and their unique needs. A key aspect of community psychology is to unite and support existing programs. For example, the team conducting risk assessments at Safe Steps have valuable understandings of the risks and needs of survivors with pets. They also have connections with animal welfare societies who are willing and able to provide supports, who they in turn will have information on what they need to support women and their pets. So to step back, we see that in Melbourne there is a groundwork being laid. A community psychologist would be able to meet with these existing stakeholders and further define the questions that need to be asked to fill the gaps in services. Looking in this micro research level, looking at targeted community groups, we've seen women in refuges and looking at their issues and identifying that women with children were more likely to leave pets behind in a dangerous environment than women without children. So therefore, we've already seen two separate groups and needs arise from one question and one exploration. So in practice, what would this look like? Let's assume there is a women's refuge in northern Melbourne that does not have the facilities to provide for pets. The staff at this organisation have recently noticed a surge in women pulling back from services and not wanting to enter the refuge or returning to dangerous environments to protect and care for their pets. The staff have reached out to head office and asked for the help of the community psychologist to come in and look at how to support these women. The community psychologist, first of all, goes, okay, let's interview the frontline staff and women within this refuge and gain an understanding of what's going on. Key issues were that women from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds didn't understand the services available, didn't understand the opportunities, and felt lost and confused and felt that they had to return. The workers said that there was no point calling a shelter after 5 p.m. because there was no support for the animals. This placed a lot of time restrictions on the support they could provide and at times left women in dangerous situations. So what next? Well, a clear referral tool and process needs to be developed to support the staff members and to support the welfare agencies. Also, developing a variety of resources in different languages so that all women have equal access, and also educating the interpreting agency around this key issue to ensure that everyone is included. Looking at clear information for women on how their pet will be cared for to reduce anxiety, and ensuring that therapy staff understand the stresses associated with this issue. Then coming back to this tool as we study and as we roll it out to revisit, refine and develop. Therefore, community psychologists have a key role to play in addressing the complex issue of supporting survivors of DV to escape dangerous situations and also support and care for their pets. This is achieved through the novel lens of seeking to understand a community, to develop lasting relationships among stakeholders and implement strategies that will be reviewed and evolved to ensure the best fit strategy is utilised to support those in need and foster lasting change. Whilst this is a complex issue, it is one where a community psychologist could come in and look at implementing change through research, empowerment and therapeutic services. Thank you for your time today.